Yeah, you want to be part of the April wrap-up? You want to be part of the April wrap-up? You said I was important in April, wasn't I? Yes, you were. Yes, you were. You wouldn't leave, would you? You were crying at the door, so Dad had to let you in the video. Hi everyone, I'm Benjamin. This is my book club. This is Clover, my dog. And this is my April wrap-up. So April was a great month for me, I think. I read 7 books in April, which was, still above kind of my average. So I'm going really well this year, actually. And I read a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed. So without any further ado, let's just jump into them. What did you read in April, Clover? Yeah, nothing you don't know how to read? All right. Just a reminder, I do have full video reviews for a lot of these books. If I do, they'll be up in the corner for you to look at, where I'll give my more detailed thoughts and a better rating. Here, I'm just going to give some quick thoughts and a very quick, off the top of my head, rating out of 5. Alright, the first book I read in April was The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, book 2 in the Mistborn trilogy. And I just adored it. I loved every second of it. I thought it was better than the first one. I have a full review of it up that you should go check it out. Long story short, it got 5 stars. It's an amazing book and it's so far my favourite fantasy book. Following Well of Ascension, I just went on and read The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, the third and final book in the first Mistborn trilogy. And again, I loved it. I'm not sure which one I like more. I might like Well of Ascension just a little bit more. There's a few bits in Hero of Ages that didn't so much drop the ball as kind of just dropped off a little bit for me. But I still give it 5 stars and it's still a great read. Alright, it's just started raining, so I'm not sure if you can hear that. If you can, sorry, but we'll just power on through, shall we? The third book I read was The Silkworm by J.K. Rowling. It's the second book, I want to say, in the Cormoran Strike Detective series of novels, which I have a really strange entry to in the series. They're my wife's, one of my wife's favourite book series, and she'd been reading them for, since before we met. And then the 5th book came out while we were dating still, I think, Troubled Blood. And it's a huge, 1,300 plus book page tome. And she was kind of struggling to read it, struggling to kind of find the time to read it, struggling to find the motivation to read it. And so she asked, because she knows I listen to a lot of audiobooks, if we could listen to the audiobook together, because we're about to go on a long road trip, and it would be a good time to, get a lot of audiobook reading in. So she quickly kind of briefed me on what had happened so far. We watched the TV series over the course of a week or two. So I watched, the first 4 books in TV form, and then we jumped into the audiobooks. And then we've listened together to the audiobooks that have come out since then. And then now that we've finished the latest one, we've doubled back, and now I'm listening to the first 4 in audiobook along with her. So we did the first one a few months ago, and we just finished The Silkworm, just in April. And I really liked it. I think it's probably got the best sort of core mystery and most satisfying conclusion so far. A lot of these books have a really good mystery set up, and then the conclusion really just drops the ball, and really disappointing for me. But this one I really enjoyed. After that, I finally managed to cross off one of my horror reading bucket list items that has been just a shame on me that I haven't gotten around to reading, and I finally read Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I've always been kind of a contrarian person, and so, whenever anyone hears I read horror, all they talk to me about is Stephen King, so I think just because of that, I've just kind of avoided reading a lot of Stephen King. But I'm finally getting back into it. He is an amazing writer. Pet Sematary is the scariest book of his that I've read. I've got a full review of it coming up in the next week or two. It's 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. Then I read Gone to See the Riverman. Cliff over at Cliff's Dark Gems put me onto this book during our live stream we did together where we talked about horror novellas. And he made it sound really interesting, so I immediately picked it up. And then as soon as it arrived, I read it. And yeah, no, this is kind of a disturbing one. Very high up on the sort of extreme horror scale. If you have any topics you can think of that if you would come across in a book would immediately turn you off and make you leave the book, I'd suggest checking out the trigger warnings on this one. The things that come up kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting them from the book. And they were really well done. And the book is, creepy, disturbing, super atmospheric. And I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, this one is a bit harder. This is How You Lose the Time War. I think I'll do a video on this one, because this is either 5 stars or 2 stars.
depending on whether we're going by, like, my objective ranking is 5 stars. It's a great book. It's probably very well written. But for me, enjoyability, it was closer to 2 stars, maybe 3. I think my biggest issue is an issue I've run into with books before, where the story that's being told isn't the story that I want to be hearing in that universe. So in this one, we have, you know, two agents of different competing timelines, kind of going through time and trying to make changes that will make their timeline the more prominent one. And they're leaving letters for each other, and there's a romance between the two of them. And that romance is absolutely the core of the story. It's the story they're trying to tell, and it's the story they tell very well. But it's that background time war that I found to be not well enough explored, not taken into account enough, and is by far the most interesting part of the book for me. So yeah, it's a setting where the framing device kind of is the thing I found most interesting. And my other issue, which I'll delve into in a video of its own, is despite being written by 2 different authors, I found the characters to be very samey. Distinguishing between the 2 characters is kind of difficult for me. They come across as very, very similar, which might be on purpose, but when all you're doing is reading letters between 2 different characters, you kind of want them to be very different characters. So yeah, it's either like 2 stars for my enjoyment or 5 stars because it's like a very well written book. I can't decide. And finally, just before the TV show comes out, which might even be out by the time this video releases, I'm not sure, I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I liked it. It often gets touted as this big, you know, mind-blowing, unique experience of a book, and I just didn't find it to be that. I found, while very well executed, all the different bits are very well put together. I found that I'd seen all these different bits before. I'd experienced all this stuff. And that's kind of where I'm at with that one. I think I'm going to give it a 3 stars. That's it for what I read in April. I had a great month. I really enjoyed the books I read. None of these books are bad books. I think you'd enjoy all of them. As for what I'm going to read next, I am currently finishing off book 2 of the Star Carrier series, which is a military sci-fi series that I quite like as kind of palate cleansers between some of the bigger books. And after that, I think I'm going to get round to reading Lord Valentine's Castle for my fantasy reading challenge. You can check out the playlist for that up here. Apart from that, I'm kind of a mood reader. I'm definitely going to try and target some more stuff on my bingo board. But yeah, I'm going to just see where the month takes me. As for my reading goals for the year, I'm at 31 books out of 50, so I'm well and truly ahead of my goal. I think I'm going to smash it this year, and I might try and go as high as 75 novels this year, and we'll see how we go. Alright, thanks very much for joining me. Let me know in the comments below what you guys read this month. What was the best book you read this month? The best book I read this month is probably Well of Ascension. And let me know what you're going to read in May. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to check out any of my fantasy reading challenge, the playlist is right here. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'd love if you could join us. And from me and Clover, just remember to keep reading.
Who's the good girl in the video? Who's the good girl in the video? Yes, you are. You're in the video. Mwah. Good girl. Good girl. Come on.